A modern nation must always keep moving forward. Times change, and our society's needs are changing along with them. To meet these needs and keep up with current developments, we must evolve and redefine policy. As we mark the 60th anniversary of the establishment of the Republic of Cyprus, we are launching the Cyprus Forum, an ambitious annual conference which aims to promote creative thinking and initiate dialogue leading to commitments and actions for sustainable and socially responsible policy reform. In collaboration with the Delphi Economic Forum, we invite a diverse selection of established speakers, local and foreign leaders and policymakers, respected personalities from the media, academia, activists, and entrepreneurs to engage in an exchange of knowledge and ideas, focusing on 6 pillars. The 6 pillars are based on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals: economy, entrepreneurship, corporate responsibility, foreign policy, energy, environment, justice, and strong institutions, research, innovation, infrastructure, education, research, culture, health, and sports. At the Cyprus Forum, discussions are recorded and monitored. Conclusions are forwarded to decision-making centers, and ideas are effectively translated to meaningful reforms. A nation's character is created by its people. We can and should be active participants in policy reforms in our country, which will benefit all of us as citizens and strengthen Cyprus and its role on the global stage. Join us at the Cyprus Forum. Listen, discuss, initiate, and help reshape society. Be a catalyst of change.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, good evening and a very warm welcome to the opening ceremony of the Cyprus Forum 2025 here at the historic Nicosia Old Town Hall. Before we begin, kindly allow me to note that for the sake of brevity, we will not be announcing distinguished guests in line with protocol this evening. We are delighted to open this year's forum with an evening dedicated to dialogue, reflection, and the shared values of democracy and cooperation. Over the coming days, the Cyprus Forum will once again bring together leaders, thinkers, and citizens to engage in meaningful conversations on the challenges and opportunities of our time. Tonight, we begin with a series of welcome and keynote addresses, followed by the traditional Zeno of Citium address delivered this year by Professor Michalis Argyroux. Later, we will honor outstanding contributions to peace and democracy through the Peace and Democracy Award. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to invite to the stage Mr. Nikolas Kyriakidis, Executive President and founding member of the Cyprus Forum, of the first welcome address. Mr. Kyriakidis.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, dear friends, welcome to the 6th Cyprus Forum. What began here in Nicosia as an experiment in dialogue has now become an annual tradition. Together, we have built not only a forum for exchange, but a tradition of open, meaningful, and responsible debate. As every year, I thank our supporters, partners, the distinguished speakers, and every single person who has contributed to making this event a reality. We're also proud to say that the Cyprus Forum is no longer confined to this island. It has expanded to Brussels, Athens, London, and soon to other policy capitals of the world. We're also working on new projects to strengthen democracy in Cyprus, such as our effectiveness index of members of parliament designed to measure how well our institutions serve the people. We are also actively engaged in projects leading to the Cypriot presidency of the Council of the European Union in January. But let me turn to my message for today. Democracy and peace, as some of us conceive them, are indeed under attack, not always by foreign powers, but from within. The danger does not only come from external threats, but also from how we treat one another in our public discourse. Too often in Cyprus, in the European Union, in the United States, and across the world, politics has become a battlefield of personal attack. Debate has turned into hostility. Criticism has turned into hatred, and disagreement into division. Democracy requires the Socratic questioning, even disagreement, but it must be carried out with respect and reason. If questioning turns into hostility, then we abandon philosophy itself, and by extension, the very spirit of democracy. Today, we might say a democracy consumed by internal bitterness cannot govern, cannot reform, cannot move forward. Yes, we must be critical. Yes, we must hold those in power accountable. But when criticism turns into personal attack, when disagreement becomes an excuse for hatred, we all fall into the trap of division. And when we lose our internal unity, our policymaking will face serious and perhaps irreversible problems. In democracy, there is a fundamental truth. Disagreement is not a flaw, it is its essence. It is not only acceptable, but necessary to disagree, to challenge policies, to demand better solutions, to fight for reforms. But there is a line we cannot cross, the line where political opposition becomes personal animosity, where rivals become enemies. JFK once urged his fellow citizens, let us not seek the Republican answer or the democratic answer, but the right answer. For us in Cyprus, the lesson is clear. Let us not seek only the partisan victory or the short-term win, but the common good that will allow our society to grow stronger. To add to this, in Cyprus, this is not only about political parties or institutions, it is also about our communities, Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots. If we allow division, mistrust, and hostility to dominate, then we weaken the very possibility of building a shared future. But if we cultivate respect, even in disagreement, on our very troubled past, then we strengthen peace and democracy for all who live on this island. If democracy is to survive, and peace with it, we need to restore a culture of dialogue based on respect. We need to replace insults with arguments, attacks with proposals, and division with cooperation. Leadership is not the ability to defeat your opponent. It is the ability to inspire your community to rise above division. This is why the Cyprus Forum exists, to create a space where people from across the spectrum, politicians, academics, technocrats, the civil society, can sit together, exchange ideas, disagree, debate, but also respect, listen, and build. Today, more than ever, we need unity in diversity. We need the courage to be critical without being destructive, to oppose without hating, to disagree without dividing. The Cyprus Forum is not about one ideology, one government, or one organization. It is about a shared commitment to make democracy stronger, policy making more effective, and our society more just and resilient. So let us begin this forum with that spirit of unity, of courage, and of responsibility. May our discussions be sharp but respectful, critical but constructive, and above all, may they contribute to the democracy and peace that Cyprus Europe, and the world so urgently need. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kyriakidis. You are very tall, actually. Thank you, Mr. Kyriakidis, for setting the tone for this year's forum. We now turn to our keynote addressees. We will begin with a recorded message from the President of the Republic of Cyprus, His Excellency, Mr. Nikos Christodoulidis.
Φίλες και φίλοι, είναι με ιδιαίτερη χαρά που χαιρετίζω και φέτος την έναρξη των εργασιών του Cyprus Forum και είμαι βέβαιος ότι για ακόμη μια φορά οι συζητήσεις που θα γίνουν στο πλαίσιο του θα λειτουργήσουν ως κόμβος διακίνησης ιδεών, απόψεων και εισηγήσεων γύρω από σημαντικά θέματα που απασχολούν τόσο τους πολίτες όσο και τις κυβερνήσεις. Εξάλλου, τα τελευταία 6 χρόνια το βήμα του Cyprus Forum γίνεται σημείο υγιούς προβληματισμού και ανταλλαγής απόψεων που απευθύνεται σε ένα εκλεκτό ακροατήριο που ξεπερνά τα κυπριακά σύνορα. Συγχαίρω λοιπόν τους διοργανωτές, καλωσορίζω τους συνέδρους και λυπούμε γιατί λόγω ανηλυμένων υποχρεώσεων δεν μπορώ να είμαι μαζί σας. Φίλες και φίλοι, θα ήμουν ιδιαίτερα ευτυχής εάν η σημερινή μέρα, 65η επέτειος από την ανακήρυξη της Κυπριακής Δημοκρατίας, έβρισκε την πατρίδα μας ελεύθερη και επανενωμένη. Όσο η κατοχή συνεχίζεται, η πατρίδα μας δεν μπορεί να αξιοποιήσει το σύνολο των προοπτικών της. Όσο η Λευκοσία παραμένει η τελευταία διαιρεμένη πρωτεύουσα της Ευρώπης, το μέλλον της χώρας μας δεν μπορεί να είναι αυτό που οραματιζόμαστε. Μέσα σε αυτό το πλαίσιο, η παρούσα κατάσταση πραγμάτων δεν μπορεί να αποτελεί το μέλλον της πατρίδας μας. Η επίλυση του Κυπριακού είναι η υπαριθμόν 1 προτεραιότητά μας και χαίρομαι γιατί 7 ολόκληρα χρόνια μετά, όπως ο ίδιος ο Γενικός Γραμματέας δημόσια έχει δηλώσει, υπάρχουν θετικές εξελίξεις που ναι, δύναται να οδηγήσουν στην επανέναρξη των διαπραγματεύσεων για την επίτευξη μιας λειτουργικής και βιώσιμης λύσης στη βάση του συμφωνημένου πλαισίου και των αρχών και αξιών της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης. Τα δεδομένα είναι δύσκολα, οι προκλήσεις καθημερινές, όμως τα πράγματα στο Κυπριακό ποτέ δεν ήταν εύκολα. Με τις πρωτοβουλίες που αναλάβαμε, με την εξωστρεφή και δυναμική εξωτερική μας πολιτική, με την ενίσχυση δεσμών με στρατηγικούς εταίρους, το ρόλο μας εντός της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης, αλλά και στην ευρύτερη περιοχή, με την αλλαγή στην εικόνα και στη φήμη της χώρας μας και την ισχυροποίηση της οικονομίας μας, πετύχαμε την επανεργοποίηση του διεθνούς παράγοντα και την έναρξη των διεργασιών που θα οδηγήσουν στο στόχο της επανέναρξης ουσιαστικών συνομιλιών. Χωρίς να υποβαθμίζω τις προκλήσεις και τις δυσκολίες, θεωρώ ότι τα μικρά βήματα που γίνονται μας επιτρέπουν να αισιοδοξούμε. Το αποτέλεσμα των προσπαθειών μας συντηρεί την ελπίδα και μας επιτρέπει μέσα από ένα διεκδικητικό ρεαλισμό να συνεχίσουμε. Θέλω να θυμίσω ότι η πρωτοβουλία που βρίσκεται σήμερα σε εξέλιξη φάνταζε αδιανόητη το 2023, όταν η Άγκυρα και ο κύριος Τατάρ αξίωναν την κυριαρχική ισότητα, αλλά και άλλα πολλά παράδεκτα ως προϋπόθεση για να δεχθούν να πραγματοποιηθεί συνάντηση υπό την αιγίδα των Ηνωμένων Εθνών ή να συζητήσουμε. Αξίωση που δεν έγινε αποδεκτή και ούτε πρόκειται να γίνει, γιατί εμείς ποτέ δεν θα συζητήσουμε λύση 2 κρατών. Γι' αυτό επαναλαμβάνω την έντονη πεποίθησή μου ότι το τείχος της κατοχής δεν είναι αδιαπέραστο και ότι η ιστορία μπορεί να διαψεύσει τις Κασάνδρες και στην περίπτωση της πατρίδας μας, όπως τις διέψευσε στο παρελθόν και σε άλλα σημαντικά διεθνή προβλήματα. Αρκεί να παραμείνουμε σοβαροί, επίμονοι, μεθοδικοί και προσιλωμένοι. Όραμά μας είναι η επανένωση της πατρίδας μας και για να φτάσουμε σε αυτό τον στόχο ακολουθούμε συγκεκριμένη στρατηγική για να δημιουργήσουμε συνθήκες μιας αμοιβαίας επωφελούς κατάστασης πραγμάτων που θα λειτουργήσει ως κίνητρο και για την Τουρκία, ώστε να απαλλαγεί από αναχρονιστικές επιδιώξεις που κρατούν και την ίδια αιχμάλωτη. Κυρίες και κύριοι, ταυτόχρονα με τις προσπάθειες επίλυσης του Κυπριακού, εργαζόμαστε μεθοδικά και για την ενδυνάμωση όλων των παραγόντων ισχύως της πατρίδας μας, εσωτερικών και εξωτερικών. Το οφείλουμε στη χώρα μας, το οφείλουμε στον κυπριακό λαό, το έχουμε υποσχεθεί στην κυπριακή κοινωνία. Στο εσωτερικό, ασταμάτητη είναι η προσπάθειά μας για τολμηρές και συνεχείς μεταρρυθμίσεις, για εξυγχρονισμό των θεσμών, για την ενίσχυση του κράτους δικαίου, την πάταξη της διαφθοράς, την αντιμετώπιση του μεταναστευτικού, την αναβάθμιση της αποτρεπτικής ισχύως της πατρίδας μας, την επένδυση στην κοινωνική πρόνοια και την εμπέδωση του αισθήματος ασφάλειας. Προϋπόθεση για όλα αυτά, τα οποία ενισχύουν και την υπόσταση της Κυπριακής Δημοκρατίας, είναι μια ισχυρή και ανθεκτική οικονομία μέσα από μια υπεύθυνη δημοσιονομική πολιτική που διασφαλίζει αναπτυξιακή πορεία προς όφελος του συνόλου του λαού μας, αλλά και μας επιτρέπει να ασκούμε στοχευμένη κοινωνική πολιτική. Χαίρομαι γιατί οι επιδόσεις της κυπριακής οικονομίας, οι καλύτερες που καταγράφει διαχρονικά η Κυπριακή Δημοκρατία και μάλιστα εν μέσω 2 πολέμων, επιβραβεύουν τις θυσίες του λαού μας και δικαιώνουν τις πολιτικές μας. Ο ρυθμός ανάπτυξης από τους καλύτερους στους υψηλότερους στην Ευρώπη, η επικράτηση συνθηκών πλήρους απασχόλησης στην αγορά εργασίας, η πτωτική πορεία του δημόσιου χρέους και πολλά άλλα είναι το αποτέλεσμα της υπεύθυνης οικονομικής πολιτικής που ακολουθούμε στη βάση του κοινωνικού φιλελευθερισμού και η οποία μας επιτρέπει να ασκούμε πολιτική για στήριξη των ευάλωτων, της μεσαίας τάξης, των νοικοκυριών και των επιχειρήσεων. Οι συνεχείς αναβαθμίσεις από όλους τους οίκους πιστοληπτικής ικανότητας, τα εύσημα από τους ευρωπαϊκούς, διεθνείς και παγκόσμιους θεσμούς και επενδυτικούς κολοσσούς συνιστούν ψήφο εμπιστοσύνη στην κυπριακή οικονομία, για την οποία όλοι οφείλουμε να είμαστε υπερήφανοι. Σε εξωτερικό επίπεδο, σε διεθνές επίπεδο, η χώρα μας βαδίζει τον δρόμο της ευθύνης και αναλαμβάνει ενεργό ρόλο ως πυλώνας ασφάλειας και σταθερότητας στην Ανατολική Μεσόγειο και την ευρύτερη Μέση Ανατολή. Ως κινητήριος δύναμη συνεργασίας, υποστηριζόμενη από ένα όραμα ισχύος, μέσω της συνεργασίας με ομονοούντα κράτη και ως ένας ασφαλές λιμάνι σε ταραγμένα νερά. Η Κύπρος αξιοποιεί την γεωγραφική της θέση και τη μετατρέπει σε στρατηγικό πλεονέκτημα σε μια περιοχή που μαστίζεται από παρατεταμένες κρίσεις. Ως ένας συνεπής και υπεύθυνος εταίρος παραμένει ένα αξιόπιστο και ασφαλές λιμάνι. Με συγκεκριμένες πρωτοβουλίες η χώρα μας γίνεται κόμβος σταθερότητας, διαμετακομιστικός σταθμός, ασφαλούς απομάκρυνσης αμάχων, διάδρομος μεταφοράς ανθρωπιστικής βοήθειας και φάρος που φωτίζει τη ρότα της ειρήνης. Αυτό το αναγνωρίζει όλος ο κόσμος και είμαι πολύ περήφανος που η πατρίδα μας βαδίζει σε αυτό το μονοπάτι της ευθύνης. Και είμαστε αποφασισμένοι να την επεκτείνουμε πάντα ως μέρος της λύσης και ποτέ ως μέρος του προβλήματος. Φίλες και φίλοι, ο χρόνος μετρά αντίστροφα για την Κυπριακή Προεδρία της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης το πρώτο εξάμηνο του 2026. Πρόκειται για ένα σημαντικότατο ορόσημο για τη χώρα μας, για μια εθνική αποστολή, την οποία είμαι απόλυτα βέβαιος ότι θα φέρουμε εις πέρας με επιτυχία. Η Κυπριακή Προεδρία θα προωθήσει την ευρωπαϊκή ενοποίηση και θα συνεισφέρουμε αποτελεσματικά στην αντιμετώπιση των προβλημάτων με τα οποία βρίσκονται αντιμέτωποι οι Ευρωπαίοι πολίτες, συμπεριλαμβανομένων φυσικά και των συμπατριωτών μας. Η επικείμενη ανάληψη της Προεδρίας του Συμβουλίου της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης είναι και μια σημαντική ευκαιρία για την ανάδειξη του ενεργού και ουσιαστικού ρόλου της πατρίδας μας, η οποία 65 χρόνια μετά την ανεξαρτησία της δηλώνει παρούσα στις μεγάλες προκλήσεις, με αυτοπεποίθηση, με αξιοπιστία, με ρόλο και λόγο. Μια χώρα υπεύθυνη που είναι μέρος επίλυσης περιφερειακών και διεθνών προκλήσεων που ταλανίζουν την ευρύτερη περιοχή. Κυρίες και κύριοι, με αυτές τις σκέψεις εύχομαι κάθε επιτυχία στις εργασίες του Cyprus Forum, με τη βεβαιότητα ότι για μια ακόμη φορά θα εμπλουτίσει τον δημόσιο διάλογο με χρήσιμες εισηγήσεις και απόψεις. Σας ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Thank you. Well, we will now hear from the European Commissioner for Fisheries and Ocean, Mr. Kostas Kadis, with a recorded message.
Φίλες και φίλοι, σας ευχαριστώ θερμά για την πρόσκληση και την δυνατότητα να συμμετάσχω, έστω και εξ αποστάσεως, σε αυτή την ξεχωριστή συζήτηση. Το Cyprus Forum είναι μια πλατφόρμα που φέρνει κοντά φορείς πολιτικής, επιστήμονες, ακαδημαϊκούς, την κοινωνία των πολιτών και την επιχειρηματική κοινότητα, με στόχο να μετατρέψει τον διάλογο σε πράξη και να οδηγήσει σε συγκεκριμένες πρωτοβουλίες. Η σύνθεση των συμμετεχόντων, η θεματολογία και οι επιδιωκόμενοι στόχοι καθιστούν πολύ σημαντική και ενδιαφέρουσα τη συζήτηση για την ευρωπαϊκή γαλάζια οικονομία, καθώς και για τη βιωσιμότητα, την ασφάλεια και το μέλλον των ωκεανών. Η γαλάζια οικονομία λειτουργεί ως βασικός καταλύτης οικονομικής ανάπτυξης και ουσιαστικού μετασχηματισμού της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης. Υποστηρίζει άμεσα 5 εκατομμύρια θέσεις εργασίας και συνεισφέρει πάνω από 250 δισεκατομμύρια ευρώ σε προστιθέμενη αξία ετησίως στην οικονομία της Ένωσης. Ως ένας από τους ταχύτερα αναπτυσσόμενους τομείς στην Ευρώπη, συνδέεται άμεσα με την ανθεκτικότητα, την ενεργειακή ασφάλεια, την μετάβαση στην κλιματική ουδετερότητα, την επισιτιστική επάρκεια και την καινοτομία. Περιλαμβάνει παραδοσιακούς τομείς δραστηριοτήτων, όπως οι θαλάσσιες μεταφορές, η αλληλεία, η υδατοκαλλιέργεια και ο παράκτιος και θαλάσσιος τουρισμός, αλλά και αναδυόμενες βιομηχανίες όπως οι ανανεώσιμες πηγές ενέργειας, η γαλάζια βιοτεχνολογία και η βιοοικονομία, καθώς και η ωκεάνια παρατήρηση. Οι προκλήσεις που αντιμετωπίζουμε στην προσπάθεια μας για μια βιώσιμη γαλάζια οικονομία και ένα ασφαλή και αειφόρο ωκεανό είναι πολλές. Η απώλεια της βιοποικιλότητας, η ρύπανση, η υπεραλίευση και οι επιπτώσεις της κλιματικής αλλαγής στις θάλασσές μας είναι μόνο μερικές από αυτές. Η Ευρωπαϊκή Επιτροπή, αναζητώντας τις καλύτερες απαντήσεις στις προκλήσεις αυτές, λαμβάνει όλα εκείνα τα μέτρα ώστε οι θάλασσες της Ευρώπης να συνεχίσουν να είναι πηγή ζωής, ευημερίας και ειρήνης για τις επόμενες γενιές. Γι' αυτόν ακριβώς τον λόγο παρουσιάσαμε πρόσφατα το Ευρωπαϊκό Σύμφωνο για τον Ωκεανό, την πρώτη ολιστική στρατηγική για τη διατήρηση και βιώσιμη διαχείριση των θαλασσών μας.
We continue with a recorded message from the European Commissioner for Enlargement, Ms. Marta Kos.
Earlier this month, President von der Leyen stated in her State of the Union speech that Europe is in a fight for a continent that is whole and at peace, for a free and independent Europe. As Commissioner for Enlargement, let me add, dear ladies and gentlemen, that to boost Europe's independence, we need to work towards a united and integrated continent. By welcoming new countries into our Union, we have an opportunity to address some of the aspirations and concerns of our citizens. It offers us not only new chances to unlock new trade opportunities and partnerships that drive economic growth and competitiveness, it also enhances our collective security. We take responsibility for the stability of our continent. A larger EU is also better equipped to address global challenges, manage illegal migration more effectively, fight organized crime more aggressively. At the same time, EU enlargement is also an opportunity to strengthen us from the inside, by ensuring the respect for our core values and democratic principles and making sure that our union functions more efficiently. But ultimately, our peace and stability stem from reconciliation. This was the rationale on which our cooperation in Europe has been built after the end of the Second World War, and this aspiration lives on. Take the example of Nova Gorica and Gorizia on the border between Italy and my home country, Slovenia, this year's capitals of culture. Two cities once divided by war and a hard border, now peacefully united in our union we call home. Reconciliation does not happen overnight. It often takes generations of hard work. Here, EU enlargement is a powerful tool to honor this 80-year-old aspiration, to heal the wounds in the countries of the Western Balkans, to prepare a place for a free Ukraine and Moldova. Because our union remains a peace project, integrating new members is crucial to reconcile people across our borders, completing our peace project to build a free and independent Europe. But let me be clear. The path to EU membership is a rigorous one, where candidate countries must demonstrate their commitment to democratic values, the rule of law and economic stability. Not just words, but hard compromises and tangible actions to transform societies in our candidate countries. Our aspiration for an independent Europe cannot come with any discounts. The merit-based process that underpins EU accession is our collective safeguard to make sure that new members are well prepared to take on the responsibilities of EU membership and contribute to a safer and stronger union. As Cyprus prepares to take on the Council presidency in January, an important responsibility will rest on your shoulders. We are determined to keep up the momentum and continue taking EU enlargement forward. For future enlargement to be successful, we must learn from our successes and especially from our setbacks. Cyprus can play an important role here. I'm personally looking forward to our work with colleagues in Nicosia, because we have the building blocks in hand to make the integration of new members as a success. Let's seize on them to build a brighter future for all Europeans. The time to unify Europe is now.
We now invite for his welcome address Mr. Mario Nava, Directorate General for Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion, European Commission. Mr. Nava.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for the invitation. Nicola said that this is the sixth forum. This is my third participation, so I would call myself a semi-regular, and I was very happy to see it growing over time. I think there are many things that Nicola said that I really espouse. First of all, this is a remarkable platform for dialogue. This is the type of platform for dialogue that we like, because it's made of businessmen, it's made of colleagues from the institutions, it's made of academics, civil society, it's made of all of those that make Europe a very special place. So I really want to commend Nicolas for this. And this is the kind of initiative on which you will always find the Commission ready to participate. We do the same in other fora, for example, the Delphi Forum, but I think having a privileged place here is something. Tomorrow at dinner we will have lots of time to go through the different points, and in particular I plan to look at the economics, at the social situation and all of that. But for today I want to keep it brief and look only at two aspects for why this sixth forum, where you all seem to be, is maybe more special than the others. They are all equal, no, Nicola? But I think this one maybe is a little bit more equal than the previous one. The first reason is the times. The times are very strange or peculiar. You just heard a minute ago Marta Kos, Commissioner Kos, saying repeating what von der Leyen said a few weeks ago, that Europe is in a fight. If you take the Soteu speech, the State of the Union speech of Ursula von der Leyen of 3 weeks ago, the first half is only dedicated to the geopolitical situation. This would have not been imaginable a few years ago. The second, the second half is dedicated to what we will talk in the next few days, competitiveness and social economy. So there is clearly a conjunction of different things. But the other reason why this Cyprus Forum is special is because it precedes the Cyprus presidency. Now, the Cyprus presidency, those who have the misfortune to be old enough as myself, is associated with epical things. You all remember what happened in 2012. If not, I'll recall it to you. Cyprus took the presidency on the 1st of July of 2012, and it was the moment of biggest tension of the euro, of economic issues. And the famous council agreement and speech of Mario Draghi of the whatever it take was on the 26th of July. And whatever it took was that many of us, we squandered the summer, but okay, who cares? I mean, it's good to squander a summer for the euro. We squandered the summer, we canceled the holidays, we prepared the banking union plans, which were presented a few hundred meters from here in Nicosia, at the informal ECOFIN of Nicosia of the 14 and 15 of September of that same year, so a few weeks after. All of these under the first Cypriot presidency. I remember it was clearly an epical moment, and then Cyprus conducted many of the negotiations of the banking union, which were then concluded 3 months later by the Irish presidency. So that's for the past, and for the future, for what we have in front of us, well, obviously we have in front of us a number of very, very big challenges to come. We have the issue, if we only look, for example, at what the Commission published 2 days ago, the Saving and Investment Union, which is probably at the basis of European prosperity. We have the forthcoming issues of the Quality Job Act, which has been mentioned by Ursula von der Leyen. We have the first ever anti-poverty strategy that will be published under Cyprus Forum. And for a forum like this, where really you put together civil society, elected politicians, bureaucrats like me, and business, having the first anti-poverty strategy under the Cyprus presidency, I think is quite something. There are really big things in front. I'm very happy to say that as a Commission civil servant, I've been working a lot with the Cypriot ambassador and deputy ambassador in Cyprus in the last few months to prepare for the presidency. And we are really confident that this country will take the helm. We hope it will be a little bit less dramatic than it was 12 years ago, 14 years ago actually. It's not even a leap year, so 14 years ago was a leap year, and as you know, the leap year, they are not bringing good luck. But this year is a normal year, so we really hope it goes well. So with that, I want to conclude by thanking very much Nicola and all the other organizers for this event that will give us, as you said, the occasion to discuss for 2-3 days, to understand, to confront while remaining respectful, and to prepare for the next 6 months that I'm absolutely sure will be crucial. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. And finally, we welcome Mr. Konstantinos Giorgakis, Chairman of the Nicosia District Local Government Organization, to share his welcome address.
Φίλε Νικόλα, Χαραλάμπε, Mehmet, Mario, Kyriako, Julia. I have to keep Julia close. Kyria Androula, Kyria Sari, Your Excellencies. Nicola, I'm standing here with mixed feelings. First of all, extremely happy and proud that this effort that you started with your team 6 years ago has taken such an amazing, I mean, it has developed to such an amazing event and a forum, but also a little bit disappointed because Mehmet is here. As you see, a couple of weeks ago, I lost a bet at the semi-final of the basketball Euro basket. We had a bet, and I lost it, and I have been trying to avoid seeing him so that I don't have to pay up. And unfortunately, I will. No. Welcome, Your Excellencies. The Cyprus Forum is not just another conference. It brings people together to discuss ideas and work on solutions that matter for our country's future. It is significant because it unites voices from many different fields, the public sector, be it the local government, the European Union, the private sector, and civil society. And in doing so, it shares knowledge and experience. It creates, therefore, as Nicola said, space for young people, especially, to step forward and be included. They can listen, speak up their minds, and help shape public conversation, hopefully. This fosters inclusion and can act as an important first step towards a stronger civic engagement from our younger generation, as it promotes the exchange of ideas and suggestions, gets decision makers to listen, hopefully, and work together for potential solutions. By encouraging participation through dialogue, this forum helps to build a community where everyone feels included, responsible, and connected to the future of our country. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you to all our distinguished speakers. We now move to a highlights of the opening ceremony, the Zeno of Citium session, a fireside discussion with Professor Michalis Argyrou, head of the Economics Office of the Prime Minister of Greece, in conversation with Mr. Kyriakos Iordanou, General Manager of ICPAC, our knowledge partners in this session. Please.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. It is indeed a pleasure to be with you today, and it is my greatest pleasure to have Mr. Michalis Argyrou as my discussant for this evening's event. Firstly, a warm thank you to the organizers, Nicola, and your amazing team for this very exquisite initiative and the momentum it takes. And Michalis, an opening remark from your side for the conference, for the forum.
Thank you very much, Kyriakos. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. I am indeed very honored and very happy to have been invited and participate in today's event. It is particularly special for me, as myself I am a Cypriot. I have been born in this city, so although I have lived most of my life in Greece and in the United Kingdom, and I now serve the Greek administration, it is always good coming back home. So this event has started with very prestigious opening statements by the President, by the Commissioners, by Mario, by Mr. Yorkazis, and it promises to be, and I'm sure it will be, a very engaging and very productive event. So thank you very much once again for having me.
Yeah, well, being conscious of the time and given that we don't have the whole evening, although we would like that, Nicola, I will start our discussion by first saying that we will continue from where Mr. Nava left the discussion. Probably, Mr. Nava, you have seen our notes. Yeah, with the two main elements that you've raised that will cover most of our discussion with Michalis. And the first is how the current geopolitical landscape in this volatile and very eruptive scenario that we've got around us affects business and economy, Michalis, in our area and, of course, in Europe.
Yes, when I started back in the Greek administration in 2019, departing colleagues were telling me, you are lucky you're going to have an easy ride. But it has anything been but an easy ride. And of course, we had big crises like the pandemic. And then we had, of course, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which has created a wholly different geopolitical landscape in Europe and globally. And of course, then we have the tensions in the Middle East. And these things are ongoing, and they do affect significantly the economic landscape in Europe, in individual countries, and globally. Obviously, the conflict in Ukraine has created an energy shock, and this has increased the price of energy. And of course, the price of energy increases, then passed through to global inflation. So this has been on its own a major shock, as it has affected firms' cost conditions. The main thing that I would say is impacted by the geopolitical tensions we observe is the feeling of uncertainty and the limited visibility that international business, but also households have. So when you have geopolitical conflicts, plans are more difficult to make, investments are more difficult to plan and execute. And definitely this is something that has a negative impact on economic activity, jobs, and prosperity. And let's not forget the very substantial impact geopolitical events have had on the security front, and namely the need to increase defense spending. Of course, for some of us, defense spending had always been part of our budgets because of very specific circumstances, which particularly in this country and city we are very well aware of. But now this has gone beyond countries like Greece and Cyprus. So Europe has found out that it needs to rearm itself in order to maintain its security, its defense capabilities. So there's going to be a rebalancing of economic activity towards defense. This will have a fiscal impact because the economic investment that has to be done in the area of defense is very substantial, particularly within the current framework of increased NATO targets. So there's going to be more demands for public cash in the area of defense. So overall, you may say that there are parallels to the Cold War period. And this, of course, calls for an increase in overall economic efficiency and making up of these difficulties that the global geopolitical landscape creates, with progress in long-standing agendas and files, which we can work on in order to make sure that we continue to grow, people continue to have jobs, and the living standards continue to increase, particularly within the current framework of demographic trends, which is on its own a different but very important subject.
Obviously, this unrest and conflicts not only impact business, but they also affect the diplomatic and the overall political agenda. Something that is discussed here is the possible inclusion of Cyprus into the Schengen zone. Mm-hmm. Do you see it positively, negatively, any benefits? Would that increase the level of security that you have just mentioned, given that it will form the outer part, outermost front of EU?
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, this is something for the Cyprus authorities to decide when they apply, how they go about it. Generally speaking, Schengen has to do with the movement of freedom of persons within the European Union. And as one of the main pillars of the European project, in principle, the free movement of people is a welcome prospect. It has very significant economic benefits. And in principle, therefore, one can only be positive towards the prospect of Cyprus joining the Schengen area. Now, definitely, there are other aspects which have to be taken into consideration. The geopolitical tensions that we were discussing before do have also another important side effect, and that is the immigration issue. And that on its own needs very careful management. And therefore, this probably at this particular junction creates some extra considerations. So I can only hope that this trade-off is optimally managed, and I would personally say what I have already said, that in principle, the freedom of movement is a very welcome thing.
Thank you. And anyway, it helps towards the European integration, which all aspire. If we were to widen the lens from the Middle East and capture a snapshot of the whole of the world, we'll see that business and trade is not at its best as well, due to the imposition of tariffs with trade wars. You mentioned before Cold War, it was a two-polar world. Now it's a multipolar world if we go business and trade. So how these developments also affect our economies and the European economy as a bloc?
This is another layer of economic and political complexity which has come about over the last 5 to 6 years. Europe and Greece, and I'm sure Cyprus, stands for free rules-based trade, and that will continue to be the position no matter what. International trade based on rules is a field where Europe excels, and we do base a lot of our economic growth and our jobs creation and prosperity on free trade. So anything that restricts free trade from the European and the Greek point of view, and I'm also sure about the Cypriot point of view, is something that we are, of course, regretting. It is true that we have gone through some rough waters, especially over the last few months. It is also true that there has been a recent agreement between the United States and Europe, which has averted the worst-case scenario. And that trade agreement is, of course, welcome in the sense that it offers at least some clarity and some stability and some predictability. As an economist, I cannot say that I am enthusiastic about the fact that compared to 2024, in 2025, we do have a substantial increase of trade barriers with our bilateral economic relation with the United States. And let's not forget that the United States is the main market for European exports. Approximately 22% of European exports go to the United States. So having such a substantial increase in trade barriers is not something I am particularly enthusiastic about. Nevertheless, I think that the agreement was one that is to be welcomed because of the reasons I mentioned before. Two important things. The first is that, obviously, as Europeans, we need to look now to diversify our trade towards other markets. And there exist opportunities. You do have markets growing in other places of the world, in all continents, and that is something that we should be looking to take good advantage of in the good sense of the word. And it is important that we continue signing trade agreements with other countries. The second thing I would like to mention is that we should make sure in Europe that we facilitate internal trade within Europe. And there, the agenda of completing and deepening our single market is of the utmost importance. There is, probably we will mention this later in our discussion, a very valid and very important discussion about increasing European competitiveness. But let us suppose that we have all the competitive goods and services in the world, and we are very productive and everything. If you have trade barriers raised for other markets, where are we going to sell all these things? And the answer to me is that first and foremost, we should make sure that we are facilitating trade within the European Union. in some sense, we are each other's best insurance when it comes to this. So that is the second thing I would like to mention. And the third final remark I would like to make, and this is very relevant for Cyprus and Greece and Europe, is that although global trade of goods in recent years has stabilized, it is approximately 22-23% of global GDP. So we have come to a plateau when it comes to globalization in terms of trade of goods. The trade of services continues to increase. And most of money between borders, or rather increasingly a big portion of money crossing borders, has to do with the trade of services. So this is a huge opportunity for the Cypriot economy. It is a huge opportunity for the Greek economy. Cyprus does fantastically in that respect. In Greece, we do improve, but we have to improve further. So that is something that gives the two countries a good opportunity, but Europe as well.
Well, the services sector is our heavy industry, Michalis, in Cyprus, and has been for the last 30, 40 years. I think it was a very wise focus of the then governments to look at how we can be a better player for international services. Yet, we've got some things that need to be amended. And some other things come and are reformed by the European Union's directives, which we can touch upon a bit later. But let's stay on the European competitiveness. I think it's a big question around whether Europe is competitive, whether Europe is producing at favorable prices. It has a competitive edge, both in production price and demographics as well. Or has lagged behind. And we see players coming up like China, India, Middle East, BRICS, the US reclaiming what they've lost. Yeah, I think that there's something that needs to be done. It was nice hearing before from Mr. Nava that it's on the agenda. And we've got the Draghi report, which I think hasn't yet been started to be implemented.
The short answer is yes, we should. We are in Greece very strong proponents of the Draghi report because we think that it is providing a very clear and very concrete blueprint for Europe, A, to ensure that it continues to provide its citizens the standard of living they aspire to and they deserve. And second, that we are a union, we are a continent that can stand on its own and can be taken seriously when it comes not just to economics agendas, but also geopolitical agendas. First of all, let me say that Europe is a place that represents the dream destination for many people in the world. So we don't do everything wrong. We do a lot of things right. Otherwise, not everybody or not a lot of people would like to come to Europe. So the European project is a project that has delivered very important results. Let's not forget why the European Union was created. It was created to safeguard peace in Europe. And it has done so over the past 7 or 8 decades. On its own, that is a fantastic achievement. And of course, it has created long-lasting prosperity. But as you said rightly, we don't live anymore in the 70s or even the 80s. Now we have a much more globalized world.
And we are not in silo. We are
exactly
in the center of all globalized activity.
Exactly. So we cannot take what we have achieved so far for granted. So yes, it is true that we have fallen behind in certain key technologies, such as, for example, the technology of digitalization. We have lost our competitive edge in some respects, and now we have to reclaim that. So some key things, this is a huge agenda, of course. Mario Draghi spent quite a lot of time in writing his report. So I will not make justice by going through everything, but I would say in bullet points, we are perhaps a little bit too bureaucratic in Europe. We need to become a place where business can be made easier. Of course, the fact that you have 28 union member states, 27 union member states, doesn't help. But we can probably agree on a 28th regime, which would be a common denominator, and that would be basically a force for everybody to converge to more business-friendly regulation. In the area of finance, if you need to have progress in technologies that are cutting edge, people must take certain risks. The banking system typically will finance more proven projects. So we need capital markets, because it is the capital markets where the money for more risky projects are invested. We need, therefore, to proceed with the Capital Markets Union. But in order to have the Capital Markets Union, we must also have the Banking Union. And the Banking Union remains incomplete. It was basically pushed forward in the previous decade, but as from 2015, no substantial progress has been made. So we need to take this progress. Also, we need to invest more to our people. Myself, I am an academic economist and always have great interest about education. Let's be honest with each other here. The education outcomes in most European member states, not all of them, there are countries that have done very well, like Poland. Poland is a very good exception, or Finland. Education outcomes are not particularly good, especially if you compare them with educational outcomes in places like Southeast Asia. So we need to invest in our people more, and we need to make sure that our young kids get the skills which they will need in the modern labor market. So there is a whole range of things. Energy is a hugely important thing. That is a very good example. I mean, now, and rightly so, all of us are trying to increase our electricity generation from renewables so that A, we have more competitive prices, and B, we have less dependence on countries like Russia. But at the same time, we do this in a way which is national-centered. So Greece is very much in favor of the idea that we should have a single European energy market, and we should finance energy projects in a way which is centralized so as to avoid unnecessary extra investments. So, yes, the answer to your question is that we need to be relooking again our drive for competitiveness, but it is not doom and gloom only, or it is not doom and gloom at all. Europe is an economic giant. It has leverage, and if we use this leverage, then we will be able to have significant progress.
So this obviously leads to how we can make better of the single market, which I, of course, personally am in favor of it, which calls for a lot of integration in a lot of areas. So single market, if it were to be enhanced, probably it would cover a lot of the things that you've mentioned, Michalis. You also mentioned before something about the services and the business and services. We see a number of initiatives, regulations coming from Brussels that are trying to regulate intra-EU business in tax, in FDI, and in other areas, data protection, etc. So I would tend to agree with you that we should ease business intra-EU and work a bit more collectively outside EU, capitalizing on the comparative advantage of each member state in order to build a competitive advantage for EU. How do you react to that?
Yes, I think that when we speak about comparative advantage, implicitly what we have in mind is market forces allocating capital and talent to different locations according to economic efficiency. And myself, I am very much in favor of this idea. At the same time, an important objective of the European Union is, and rightly so, a cohesion among European member states. So, yes, it is, if you like, a puzzle where different pieces have to be placed together in order to get a good outcome. One is the regulatory component, where, as I have already commented, we need to become a little bit lighter. Without, of course, compromising safety standards, without, of course, compromising human rights, without, of course, compromising any of the core European values, we can do with more simplification and less bureaucracy, which is a very standard European agenda nowadays. The second thing which I think we should do is that we should make this link, I have already alluded it, but I will make it again. We should see our competitiveness enhancement policy with our cohesion policy in tandem. And let me, if you like, make it a little bit more specific. It is very good that we now look, and this is part of the next European budget, to finance projects at the European level. So basically, there is in the Commission's proposal for the new European budget the idea that we should be financing centrally firms which can become global champions. And that is absolutely right. But at the same time, the cohesion objective should also be served. This agenda should not be executed in a way so that investment and economic activity takes place in small geographical pockets. And let's not forget, the starting position of EU member states is not the same. So when I say that we should also maintain focus on cohesion, I don't mean that net contributors, countries like Germany or countries like France or Sweden, should write checks for member states who are net recipients, basically to boost consumption. What I have in mind is that we should invest across the whole of the European Union so that every European Union member state has a competitive economic activity in perhaps different industries that will be decided by the markets, so that we create in every part of the European Union self-sustained economic progress, which will then create the internal demand that will make sure that the increased supply due to higher competitiveness will be absorbed. So I see this as complements, not substitutes. And a last word about foreign direct investment, where, by the way, in Greece now we are doing much better than we used to do in the past. Foreign direct investment is absolutely necessary in order to cover investment needs and at the same time transfer new technologies. It has all these good aspects. But we should not be naive. In an ideal world, we would be friends with everybody, and basically we would have a perfect Ricardian economic world where we invest freely and each produces the goods that they are best at, etc. But as you said, Kyriakos, these are a little bit more challenging times, and we should not be naive. We are, of course, very friendly to foreign direct investment, but this foreign direct investment should not create strategic dependencies, which later on we may regret, both in the areas of economics and security of supply, but also in the area of defense. We should be very careful as to these geopolitical dependencies.
Michalis, you are very true about the last one. Indeed, the foreign direct investment screening regulation comes to regulate or provide a filter for European Union against the threats that you've just mentioned, and the Cyprus presidency will have to deal with the FDI exports. So it's something that we would need to see it both ways. Saying this, Michalia, I think it's fair to mention that Cyprus is about to pass the law of foreign direct investment. It's on Monday, the last discussion in the Finance Committee at the Parliament, and hopefully in a few days' time it's going to be passed the law eventually. And also we are currently under a tax reform project, which, well, it raised some criticism as to its effectiveness with respect to competitiveness and meeting these challenges. I have noticed that the Greek government at the the Prime Minister made some announcements in order to alleviate a bit the burden. And also, I would like to comment that I've seen some European countries being a bit flexible and adjusting to the interesting times that we have in order to deal with either inflation or the tariffs by taking extra measures to remove unnecessary, possibly, burdens from the businesses and the people tax-wise. So a comment for what the Greek government is doing as the Prime Minister declared.
Yes, in Greece we have some very specific challenges, and the announcements about tax policy last month in the Thessaloniki International Fair are part of a more general strategy in order to do three things. First of all, increase labor market participation. We have made progress. Actually, we have made very big progress when it comes to reducing unemployment in Greece over the last 6 years. From 18%, we are down to 8%. But we also want to increase the number of people who are willing to get jobs. That's what I mean when I say labor market participation. So that's the first objective. The second objective is that we want to increase investment in Greece, because during the years of the crisis, investment in Greece collapsed. And as a result, our capital stock went down. And now we try to bring it back. And the third thing we want to do is that we want to make labor and capital more productive, and therefore we aim for higher productivity. What we have done in the tax system in Greece, as announced by the Prime Minister last month in Thessaloniki, is that we have reduced basically income taxes, more or less for everybody, with extra benefits for young people and for families with children. So everybody will see their tax bill reduced, but young people, until the age of 25, they will pay zero tax up to a certain level of 20,000 euros, and people between 26 and 30 will pay just 9%. Now, why we have done this thing? Because this is what we believe to be a supply-side tax reform. We did not want to incentivize consumption by reducing VAT or indirect taxes. By the way, that would not be effective in terms of boosting purchasing power, because the economic literature and the international experience shows that when you reduce VAT or other indirect taxes, the benefit doesn't pass through to the consumer, at least not wholly. So we wanted, on the one hand, to boost purchasing power by means of letting people keep more of the money that they earn, and that benefit will pass 100% to them. But by reducing taxes, we send a signal that being economically active pays off. So we try to encourage people who do not work now to look for a job, because that will be worth it. We try to incentivize young people to get in the job market earlier so that they earn money, and by the time they reach 30, they will have accumulated skills which will make them more productive later on. And we have also reduced taxes for people who are basically belong to what we call the middle class. So the upper parts of the middle and the upper parts of the income distribution, because we believe that a lot of these people are highly skilled, highly productive, so we want them to stay in the country. We want them to work more because they will earn more and they will produce products of higher value added, and we want the so-called brain drain generation to come back. So this is, if you like, a very internally consistent, as I would say in economics, strategy, which looks to achieve the objectives I mentioned, and together with our drive to reduce bureaucracy, together with our drive to improve education in Greece. By the way, a Cypriot university is one of the universities that is going to start operating in Greece as from this year. We are trying basically to address this holistically, and I believe that it will have a good effect.
Thank you very much, Michalis. I think it was a very good message for all of us who are here in Cyprus, what you've mentioned last. I would say that it boosts social cohesion on the one hand, and also it increases productivity. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for bearing with us, and looking forward to talk to you outside. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Argyru and Mr. Iordanu, for your insightful contributions. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are to a very special moment of the evening, the presentation of the Peace and Democracy Award, celebrating outstanding contributions to peace and democratic values.
Shows two things. One, it's obvious, his love for Greece, and the other one is that he's clueless about basketball. So, with that comment, allow me to say that it's a great honor to stand before you today at this important gathering and this particular important moment. First of all, Nicolas, what a great conference. You should be proud of yourselves. And I think Nicosia can do more about this event, and I think that doubling our beds as of next year, we should be able to accommodate more people and make this event larger and reach new heights. This forum represents our collective commitment to strengthening our societies here in Cyprus and across the Eastern Mediterranean. It provides opportunity to address the pressing challenges of our time: economic growth, education, justice, healthcare, the environment, and democratic resilience, always with an eye to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and the well-being of generations to come. Nicosia, our capital, embodies both the challenges and the opportunities of this mission. I see every day how important it is to build bridges between the public, private, and civic sectors. The Cyprus Forum, with its insistence on concrete results, offers the ideal platform for such cooperation. This year, however, the Forum also takes on a new and deeply meaningful dimension. An award has been and will be presented jointly by myself, Mr. Mehmet Hamanji, and Ms. Giulia Bertazzolo, recognizing individuals who, through their values, integrity, and lifelong service, advance democracy and peace in Cyprus. The award reflects our ongoing commitment to honoring and preserving the legacy of those who have dedicated their lives to these noble causes. It is both a celebration and a reminder that democracy and peace are not abstract ideals, but living principles made real through the efforts of individuals who choose courage over silence and cooperation over division. The nominees for this inaugural award speak for themselves. Mr. Xenophon Kallis, who led the service for missing persons at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for many years, and who recently sadly passed away at the age of 73. His tireless work was a testament to truth, reconciliation, and the healing of wounds in our society. And Ms. Turkan Aziz, the first Turkish Cypriot woman to serve as a head nurse, who passed away at the remarkable age of 102 years old. Through her service, she not only cared for lives, but also paved the way for women in her community, embodying the spirit of dedication and progress. By recognizing such individuals, we do not merely look back on their contributions, but we look forward. Their legacy challenges us to continue their work, to advance democracy, justice, and peace, and to strive for the Cyprus they envisioned, a society rooted in dignity, equality, and unity. And this brings us back to Nicosia. It remains the only divided capital in Europe. In all honesty, I hate this expression. I hate this definitive statement. I hate visitors returning from their visit in Nicosia back home, taking with them the image of barrels, derelict buildings, trees coming through roofs, and checkpoints. For too long, Nicosia has borne the burden of the unresolved Cyprus issue. Prevented from realizing its full potential, the city has grown introverted, its people constrained by makeshift solutions to a reality that was never meant to be permanent. Across the divide, in the coastal areas predominantly, we see investment, tourism, and growth, while Nicosia's unique multicultural beauty waits to be fully rediscovered. And I make a joke that others are counting revenues from sunbeds, and we are counting buildings that are falling down in the buffer zone. Whilst division is a permanent obstacle to planning, foreign direct investment, human psychology, and long-term vision, it is also an environmental and health hazard, as a broken infrastructure and uncontrolled collapse of buildings in the buffer zone, which form cultural heritage for Nicosia, is threatening the city, with Famagusta Gate flooding in 2016 and the walls of Nicosia collapsing in various places. This is why bicommunal cooperation matters so deeply. During my campaign and during last year's event, I pledged my readiness to work with Mehmet to deliver real positive results for all. I believe that with sincerity and determination, we can revive the spirit of the joint master plan, which once gave us a sewage treatment plant in Nyamilya. That cooperation slowed after 2001, but now is the time to bring it back, grounded in sustainability, aligned with the UN SDGs and the EU's green and smart transition agendas. Together we can pursue projects that make a difference, advancing waste management, expanding green spaces, supporting residents and businesses in the green transition, promoting renewable energy autonomy, encouraging health, sport, and animal welfare, expanding digital services. But these are general remarks. Bold steps are possible. The sustainable revival of the buffer zone, for which we now have an agreement, a well-thought and perfectly feasible plan. The transformation of the proposed UN bicommunal photovoltaic plant, supported by the EU, into a city-led project. The opening of new crossings to foster entrepreneurship and innovation around the Science Center of Excellence, and yes, a new car crossing in the eastern part of Nicosia, there as headed, and the development of a waste-to-energy facility for the entire city. Such initiatives require trust and sincere cooperation qualities I am confident Mehmet and I can cultivate. But they also require funding and the support of all stakeholders, from the United Nations to the European Union to civil society itself, if we are to move from ideas to reality. Within a few months of my election, following close collaboration between us, enormous pressure on Julia and her team, and eventually their super valuable support, we have announced together with UNDP the extension of the PEDIOS Can Leader project in the buffer zone and towards the north. We are very thankful for this support, and we are ready for more. The easy path would be to fall back into the language of blame and division. I refuse to go down that road. Instead, I choose to look forward, to focus on building a city of peace, stability, and opportunity in a region so often marked by turmoil. Hope is built step by step through small but meaningful successes. I believe we can create more of those success stories together, Mehmet. Our joint presence in Brussels in a few days' time will strengthen our common message with or without a comprehensive settlement, and you know that my heart is with a comprehensive settlement. Nicosia has paid enough. It has paid enough. So with or without a settlement, we have to take steps. We cannot hold the burden for the other cities of Cyprus anymore. Thank you for your presence, for your commitment, and for your belief in dialogue and change. Congratulations to the awardees, and I look forward to what we can achieve together. Thank you.
Honorable speakers, esteemed guests, organizers, of course there's familiar faces around like Konstantinos. Always good to have Haralambos side by me, and Julia with her enormous efforts to bring us together, to deliver more for Nicosia, for Cyprus, and of course Mr. Nava. We have worked really hard in the past, and we will get as much as what we can do from you. Of course, Nicholas is making a great job by Cyprus Forum, but we need to enlarge the forum across the white. We need to enlarge the forum with the constitutional language, Turkish, for example. We need to put more Turkish Cypriots into the process. How some of the topics that you are discussing is like from the space from us. So we need to be more engaged, we need to be more collaborative, but we will do whatever we can do to enlarge the forum, of course. Yes, Konstantinos, I'm going to eat the dinner. You cannot escape from me. But I will give you a festival when we have a united Cyprus basketball team play on the ground. Whoever they win or lost, I will give you a festival, don't worry. Look, I think today this is a very good opportunity to elaborate more. I think Haralambos put very good perspective about Nicosia, what we can do, and I'm looking forward for Brussels as well, because there is a few areas without a solution that we need to be more and more persistent, and we need to be more collaborative, like the cultural heritage, like the environment. We could do more. Yes, he didn't say publicly, but let's say Nicosia deserves a special budget line from EU to protect the conservation of Nicosia, because this is the only bicommunal city in the world at the moment which is divided. And we need to protect our cultural heritage. We need to protect our environment. Whatever the European Union is going to fund the Republic of Cyprus about environment, as long as we pollute in the north, it will not work. So we need to cooperate. We need to work together. Today, yes, we are honoring the memories of 2 lives dedicated to pursuit of values humanity needs to reimburse perhaps more than ever in modern history. Light in the midst of darkness, good in the midst of evil, and truth in the midst of ignorance, deception, and hypocrisy. Before getting into detail about 2 honorable names, at this moment, we need to realize that, I don't know about Haralambos, by myself, I don't want to be remembered 25 years later that I have worked for peace. I want to be remembered that I built the peace together with this conference room, because there is so many people lived their life without seeing the solution of the Cyprus problem. And they worked really hard. So it's the time. It's the time to solve this problem. One of the person dedicated her life to the healed people wounds life. One dedicated his life to healing wounds thereafter. One cared for and honored the integrity of human life in this lifetime. One cared for and honored the integrity of human life thereafter. And somewhere in between. In an interview with Sergil Uludağ in 2004, Xenophon Kalis said, "For the first time in human history, the denial of human beings' existence has emerged. Because the missing person is neither alive nor dead. Whether we are alive or dead, we all belong to a community. Missing persons, however, exist in a kind of void. This is the first time in human history that such an existence has been encountered." He believed this was unacceptable and deep pain shared by Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots alike. He devoted his entire life to bring back into existence these people and to bring closure to their heartbroken families. Türkan Aziz, on the other hand, was a decorated nurse, highly respected by her peers and patients in both communities. After the war, she became a leader in the development of healthcare services in the Turkish Cypriot community. She also trained generation of nurses to serve humanity, following the same values she held so dear. I have also had the privilege of knowing Türkan Aziz in person. As a dear friend of my parents, I will always remember her as a global citizen. If not traveling, always glued to international news. She cared deeply, not just about her people, but about humanity as a whole. The suffering of everyone mattered, regardless of geography, nationality, ethnicity, race, or religion. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to put a bomb to the room to make deep discussions, but in here, we need to understand and acknowledge the geopoliticals around. Winter is coming. If Cypriots is still in the summer nap, we are going to face the winter, unfortunately. If the pro-peace people around Cyprus is not going to step up and talk about the realities of the island, we are going to face the winter very badly. So it's time for each one of us to cooperate. It's time for each one of us to understand the difficulties that we are in, to understand what is the reality to overcome this problem, because in your 15th Cyprus Forum, probably there will be somebody who's not going to pass the checkpoint in here. So it's an urgent matter of fact that we need to solve this problem for the sake of the Cypriots. We are now giving the prize of peace and democracy, and I would like to say one thing about geopolitical crisis about Israel and Gaza, Palestine. I'm not going to put anything about the solution of it, but at least we need to understand one thing. The war crime is a war crime in everywhere. Stop killing the innocents. Stop killing the kids. Stop killing the women. At least we can agree on this level. So I am really willing to cooperate with Haralambos for the sake of Nicosia. Haralambos is my friend, but he's the mayor of Nicosia. I'm going to say it. I worked with the mayor of Konstantinos for a long time. Although we are coming from two different camps, we delivered because we never blamed each other in front of public. We debate, we come to a conclusion. We never agree on many things, but we eat the fruit. Let's eat the fruit. Let's make Nicosia a cooperation. Let's make Cyprus Forum across divide. Let's make Nicosia is a democratic values and peace city. Thank you very much.
Thank you both. You may take your seat until I call you again to come back to collect your award. Sorry. We now invite Ms. Giulia Pertezzolo, head of the Cyprus Settlement Support Unit at the European Commission, to deliver a short address and to announce this year's awardees.
Thank you very much. Dear mayors, dear excellencies and participants, dear friends. Let me first congratulate Oxygen for Democracy for the Peace and Democracy Award. It's a refreshing initiative, especially in these turbulent and sometimes frightening times. Today, more than ever, we need to hear voices that can break the algorithm that keep proposing us the same negative narrative and makes us feel powerless. And I'm very pleased to speak after Mehmed, Charalambos, Konstantinos. I think they are the living example that fruitful and harmonious cooperation is possible and that it can make peace and democracy in Cyprus to progress. Today, we are celebrating the life engagement of two people, a woman and a man, who didn't settle for the status quo. Turkan Aziz, as it was said, managed to break down gender and ethnic barriers and work tirelessly to eradicate diseases and improve the health of all Cypriots. Xenophon Kallis dedicated his life to finding the remains of people who went missing during the events of 1963 and 1974 to give their families the possibility to find some closure. Their life example reminds us that peace is not an abstract concept, but is a daily practice. Peace is not a slogan or a statement, even if it's made with the best intention. Peace is something that you build every day with concrete actions of justice, of dialogue, of care, gestures of truth and responsibility. Peace is therefore not static. Turkan and Xenophon reached out to the people who surrounded them, and they went further to their communities, to all Cypriots, and as Mehmet said, globally. Peace implies moving towards the others. And peace is not static also in another sense. Building peace means being able to make compromises. It means finding a point of agreement between conflicting positions. And this implies taking into account the reasons of the other parties. Peace cannot be imposed, and it cannot survive if the position of one party prevails towards the one of the other. Frustration, sense of defeat, and exclusion are the best friends of conflicts. Our thoughts, of course, goes to the situation of Cyprus and to the path forward in finding a solution to the current division. What kind of future can we imagine for this island if not an inclusive one, where all feel empowered? Finding compromising is not a sign of weakness, quite the contrary. It's a sign of strength. It doesn't mean surrendering, but being able to listen and care about the others. And this is what the two awardees of today have done their whole life. So let me conclude by congratulating again Ms. Aziz and Mr. Kallis, their families and their communities for the Peace and Democracy Award 2025. Thank you for these two beautiful examples that show us how being human is not a passive condition. It is a duty that we have to fulfill every day.
Thank you, Ms. Pertezzolo. And now for the official presentation of the awards, I invite to the stage Mr. Nicholas Kyriakidis, Executive President and founding member of the Cyprus Forum, and Ms. Biyun Günes, founding Editor-in-Chief of Policy Press.
I just wanted to say thank you so much, Mr. Prunzos, Mr. Hamanje. I think that the stronger image I have in my mind from last year's forum was your image together. And I hope this becomes a tradition, and every year you come here, or whoever is after you. I just wanted to say that I mean, nationalism and showing off power might be popular nowadays, but peace and friendship is even cool. It's more cool, I think. So we like that more. A few words about this award. So we established it last year, and it's an initiative to posthumously recognize those who devoted their lives to advancing democracy and peace on the island. And this award is not only a tribute to the individuals we honor, but also a reminder to all of us that that the foundations of democracy are strengthened by the courage, integrity, and sacrifices of those who came before us. Last year, we had the privilege of honoring Lena Melanidou and Osgeros Gyur, two remarkable figures who left a lasting legacy of justice and reconciliation. And as you've heard, this year, we recognize two inspiring individuals, Xenophon Gallis and Durkan Aziz. And I would like to call to the stage Mr. Brunzos and Mr. Harmadje to give the awards. Mr. Brunzos to give the award to the relative of Mrs. Durkan Aziz, and Mr. Harmadje to the relative of Mr. Gallis. And after the award, those who are here to receive the award, please share a few words, if you'd like, about Durkan Aziz and Xenophon Gallis. So may I invite to the stage the relatives who are here to receive the award. So first, Mr. Harmadje to give the award for Xenophon Gallis. Yes.
On behalf of the family, I would like to express our sincere gratitude for honoring Xenophon tonight. Our brother, in addition to his biological family, considered all missing persons as his family, dedicating his entire life to their cause. Throughout his life, he remained modest and humble, never seeking titles or positions. He was a beloved brother, deeply devoted to the family until the very end, and we are incredibly proud to have been a part of his life. Thank you.
Well, thank you to all our speakers and awardees for their inspiring words. Oh, I'm sorry. It's okay.
I thought one was a relative of Xenophon Gallis and the other of Durkan Aziz, but here is the relative of Durkan Aziz. Congratulations with the award. We have Bilun here to translate. Please say a few words, and Bilun.
Are they working? They won't turn.
Merhabalar, ben Türkan Aziz Hanım'ın yeğenlerinden biriyim. Ayrıca Hasan arkadaş da aynı şekilde yeğeni oluyoruz. Tüm katılımcılara ve bu organizeyi yapan, emeği geçen herkese sonsuz teşekkürlerimizi iletiyorum.
Mr. Zia and Mr. Hassan are the cousins of Turkan Aziz, and they're expressing their deepest gratitudes for the organizers and the attendees of this event.
Türkan Aziz'in böyle bir yerde anılmasına çok sevinmiş bulunmaktayım ve gurur duymaktayım. Aile adına bu plaketi alıyorum gururla ve onu en iyi şekilde muhafaza edeceğiz.
I am deeply honored on behalf of Turkan Aziz and the family, and I feel an extensive gratitude that her legacy is being appreciated on the stage and among yourselves. And we will be keeping this prize as a family possession.
Türkan Aziz tahsilini tamamladıktan sonra hemşire olarak tüm Kıbrıslılara üstün hizmetlerde bulunmuş bir şahıs olduğunu biliyorsunuz.
You already know that through her extensive medical help to this community, that she's one of the pioneers in her field.
Ancak burada aileden de biraz söz etmek istiyorum. Sayın Belediye Başkanı Mehmet Harmancı aileyi çok iyi tanıyor. Kız kardeşi ilk eczacılardan biri sayılmaktadır.
I'd also like to talk about the extensive family of Turkan Aziz. Her sister is Kamuran Aziz, is one of the first pharmacists in Cyprus.
Ancak burada baba Mehmet Aziz Bey'den de bahsetmek isterim. Muhakkak bileniniz de çoktur. Mehmet Aziz Bey, Larnaka kazasının Kalahoryo köyünde doğmuş bir kişidir.
And also her father, Mehmet Aziz, has been born in Larnaca, Kalahoryo village, and he has done extensive medical contributions to the community as well.
Tahsilini tamamladıktan sonra Kıbrıs'a gelerek sağlık alanında çalışmış ve en başarılarından dolayı en üst düzeye çıkmış bir kişidir.
Upon completing his medical studies by the first degree, he has arrived to this island to serve his community.
1930'lu yıllarda Kıbrıs halkını sıtma hastalığı kırıp geçiriyordu. Büyük bir problem idi. Bu Dünya Sağlık Örgütü tarafından bir proje düzenleniyor ve Malta, Kıbrıs gibi yerlerdeki bu hastalıktan kurtulmak istiyorlardı. Mehmet Aziz Bey'i bu projenin başında görevlendirildi. Zaten en üst düzeyde bir bürokratıdı ve tüm Kıbrıs halkına hizmet ederek herkesi bu hastalıktan kurtarmıştır.
In the 1930s, there was an epidemic of malaria disease, and the World Health Organization wanted to commission Mehmet Aziz through his bureaucratic work as well and his medical advances to come up with a plan and eradicate this disease from likes of Cyprus and Malta and likewise. And he has achieved this through this program, and he eradicated malaria from Cyprus.
Bugün birçok kaynaklarda Kıbrıs'ı sıtma hastalığından kurtaran adam diye geçmektedir, anılmaktadır. Ancak ne yazık ki gerekli Kıbrıs'ın tüm bölgelerinde gerekli ilgiyi de hatırlanmayı da görmediğine inanmaktayım. Ümit ederim ki bu akşamki bu güzel forumda nasıl ki böyle güzel şeyler dile getirilmiştir, onun da belki ümit ederim adı daha çok anılacaktır. Çünkü tüm Kıbrıs halkına büyük bir hizmette bulunmuştur.
Despite eradicating malaria from Cyprus, unfortunately his name is not well recognized, his legacy is not being well carried forward, and not really well known So platforms like these are really important to bring attention back to these people who've done many contributions for their communities. So he's expressing his gratitudes and hopes for the future that these names, these heroes of us, are recognized again.
Teşekkürler. Tüm katılımcılara, belediye başkanına ve bu organizeyi yapan herkese, katkı koyan herkese sonsuz teşekkürlerimi iletiyorum.
Thanking everyone and our mayors and the organizers of this event.
Let's please take a photo. Mr. Kallis, please come to the stage. Let's all come here. I can come further to this side.
Böyle buyurun.
Well, thank you. Thank you to all our speakers and awardees for their inspiring words. This concludes the official part of our opening ceremony, and we now invite you to join us for the networking event. I think you are all ready to do it. An opportunity to connect, exchange ideas, and begin conversations that will shape the coming days of the Cyprus Forum 2025. Ευχαριστώ, teşekkür ederim, and thank you and enjoy the evening.